Are you trash at BO4? Does your Maddox shoot better?
My Maddox is ready.
Do you fear Deed's
I got
Maddox?
the best Maddox shot out here. So, long story short, no 1v1. Maddox only win that one.
What's good, my handsome? It's your QBK back here with another sexy BO4 video. In today's one, guess what we're looking at? We're looking at my Maddox.
My Maddox is ready.
For anyone who's wondering, I've been asked this question for the last year or so. Like, people are like, how is your Maddox beam so crazily? You know, I mean, that's just how it is. You know how it is. On guard, my Maddox is ready. I just wonder if theirs is. So, looking at it, like, I'm thinking, you know, let's give away some of the secrets of JakubiK's lifestyles and allow the peasants to get their Maddox ready. Obviously, my Maddox is not the best in the game. That would be 00 Sapphires. And there's also some other Maddoxes which are pretty good. These people all use basically the same shit to make their Maddox godlike. So, we got like man like Deed. Literally like the greatest NA Maddox user of all time.
My Maddox is ready.
With his keyboard and mouse. Sapphire, Diligence, obviously their Maddox is ready. This will allow you to become a Maddox god like all these grinders. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Now, the first step to becoming a Maddox god is obviously to know the class setup. Most people already know this part, you can skip over, but there are some little Timmies and certain individuals who are not so bright. So JakubiK has to supplement their knowledge by giving them some enlightenment. Within the class setup on your Maddox, the easiest way to understand what you can use and what not to use is by this template right here. As long as you have all of these things on the Maddox and your class, it will be reasonably okay, and everything else other than that is sort of your choice. If you want to know the meta class, this would be the meta class. The things that you do change: if you're a Chalice player, you go laser sight instead of stock. Fast mags is sometimes an option. If you wanted to have fast mags on top, you would take off these two, put on a fast mag here. Gear, usually people use stim shot. There are some weirdos, if they play FFA, they'll use acoustic sensor. That's completely fine. Scavenger gets supplemented for either flak jacket, tac mask, and dead silence will go into ghost. That's all your personal preference. As long as your class looks reasonably like this and has at least these things on, you'll be completely fine. The second most important thing you need to understand is your settings. A lot of people will preach the fact that there are some sort of godlike settings for the Maddox. That is completely untrue, in fact. As you can see by my sensitivity, yeah, it's looking a bit interesting. Max sensitivity everywhere, 4x, with interesting looking tactical, which a lot of people don't use. However, I like tactical for sliding. This really vary as you like. The only thing I would not recommend doing here is do not put your sensitivity to lower than like 4. It would make it really annoying to deal with. If you're playing any sensitivities that I would recommend, 1414, 4x is fine. If you want to put this to 1, that's also fine. If you wanted to go something lower, I would recommend somewhere around 6611 and then go up or down a bit as that goes. Either way, the techniques I'm going to be showing you in this video will be universally used in whatever settings you do use. Other than that, you're basically fine. I would recommend, however, watch some of my order movement videos and tutorial videos on Black Ops 4 just so you understand how to actually mechanically work the game in other aspects with movement, for example, other than just shooting and being not garbage. One important thing to showcase as well, whenever you use a Maddox, there are very important things that will help you if you do buy them. If you wanted to, you could get control freaks like I do here. Now, my control freak is interesting. It's actually 2.5. This is impossible to get if you have a standard controller. Now, I have that because this stick has tension. Again, impossible to get on the normal controller. I have used a default controller like this with no tension, and well, I've had a normal control freak and I've done completely fine. My Maddox is ready regardless. So it doesn't particularly matter that I have something that is not typical within what people use in Black Ops 4, because either way my Maddox is ready. So they can play my Maddox with nothing, to be quite honest. I'll still, you know, just run me at the range, no problem. Control freaks, what they do is they will increase your thumbstick height by most likely double. I would recommend double. If you can make it even higher like I do, that's also reasonable, but it might be overkill. Because your stick is higher, you get more leverage on it. So the distance between here and here is actually larger than if you had a normal controller from here to here. It's a much shorter distance here. What this means is you can be more precise in your commands on having a larger stick. Now, these, I wouldn't particularly recommend just going for Black Ops 4 ones. You can basically do anything. I would recommend just buy whatever looks okay on Control Freak websites. If you were talking about concave or convex, in my opinion, I've used, this is like where it goes outwards like this, sort of. They're fine. I've used inward ones for 3 years. They're fine. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. Use what you prefer. These are like $20, so you can just get those, no problem. This will tremendously help you out with your aim. But is it a necessity? No. If you use these, you can play higher sense. If you want to not use these, no problem. Play lower sense. It still works. Other than that, that's basically it for control freaks. So yeah, I actually use 2.5. So I extend my stick by +5 thing, and then another control freak on top. So I'm kind of crazy like that. But yeah, anyway, with all that out of the way, actually, I can also tell you, if you do want to be a weirdo, I wouldn't recommend using a Zim Apex or a Cronus for Maddox gameplays. It is unnecessary if you want to be a controller player. I've only controllered in my whole entire existence, never used a keyboard, and my Maddox is ready regardless, and people still think I'm a boarder, so it's irrelevant how people will tell you to try and get Cronuses or keyboards. I would not recommend buying anti-recoil Zim settings or anti-recoil Cronus scripts. They're kind of fake, to be quite honest with you. If you do want to buy anything though, buy some back buttons. Strike back is the cheapest option if you want to buy pro controllers like I have, because people still think I cheat. You can also go for these. These will not particularly help you with the Maddox, however, they will help you with your movement and other things to a reasonable standard that will allow you to focus more on your Maddox shot. And this is in general for any weapon in Black Ops 4, this doesn't have to be just in the Maddox. Anyway, I've taken up a bit of time here, so let's get into the actual commentary of the Maddox. Now, if you do use a Maddox, you actually are reasonably fine in the fact that it's a very wide gun that you can use. You can use this gun basically as an SMG or an AR, which is quite useful and helpful. It's a very wide range of things that it is capable of, which means, well, it's quite a good gun, but it is quite complex to use. So I'm going to be showing you guys some good tips that will definitely enhance your gameplay in some possible way. The best tip I can tell you, obviously, keep grinding on the Maddox and you will be better. The first thing I'm going to teach you, obviously, recoil control. Every gun in the game has a normal recoil pattern, which is not dynamic, so it doesn't change. It's a flat recoil pattern, and with the Maddox it's the exact same thing. This is what you're going to be getting every single time you shoot it at a wall. It will go like out towards the top and then the side and then back over. It's annoying because the Maddox has a lot of horizontal recoil. One of the tips I learned from other people who grind the game, if you were to shoot this at a wall, which we will do in 1 second, there is no walls here. Okay, we went over the frequency because I kind of realized there's actually no walls on firing range you can shoot that show the recoil pattern. So that was a bit of an L for me, but we'll get right back into what we're talking about anyway. Okay, we are good. Thank the heavens. When you look at recoil controls of guns or recoil patterns of certain guns, you can actually tell a few interesting parts. The main thing you want to understand of the Maddox, the first initial bullets, which is about the first 10 burst, is very easy to control. After that point, you're going to get a wide range of sway, which goes right and left when in your recoil. This is almost impossible to control. However, there is a tip I have seen other people talk about, which is reasonably okay. If you look at the start point and end point of your recoil control, for some reason this shit actually doesn't want to pop up on screen, which is annoying, but imagine like it went like this and then like up there. You would take the beginning point and then the last point and just draw a line in between them. So that's the line that you would want to pull down opposite to. So the Maddox, it's sort of towards 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock type region, actually more like 1 o'clock. And if you do the opposite, it will just go like this. And if you generally pull your stick towards that, you'll be completely fine with negating most of the recoil. On average. That's basically an average sort of estimation of where to pull your stick. The reason you would want that is because the Maddox obviously has your right and left after. So to negate having to worry about that too much, especially if you're starting off with the Maddox, just simply do the average, and this is how it would reasonably look. Looks okay. Once you get better, you can actually start pulling in different directions whenever you get to the other recoil patterns that will occur with the Maddox. So nowadays, I will start pulling not only down here from the 1 o'clock angle degree, I would eventually move towards the right and then the left back. So the 2 points that are important with your recoil pattern after analyzing it, you need to make sure you stay accurate with your first bullets because they are the easiest to control. After that, you're going to be going into bullets that go into Narnia basically. They're still okay to control as long as you follow the second point, which is on average try and pull your gun down towards the line which connects the last shot, which would have been somewhere here, and the shot here, which is about 1 o'clock, and just do opposite of that. With every recoil in the game, obviously this is quite an obvious thing to mention, however some people might not realize, if you do the opposite of wherever your gun goes, it will negate the recoil. In Black Ops 4, the way the engine works, it is impossible for you to laser people across the map, even if you believe like theoretically it should be. In other games it is possible, however in Black Ops 4 it's simply not the case. There are other things within recoil that will not allow you to do that. For example, you have your idle sway bullshit, you also have your recoil as in visual, which isn't actually recoil, however it is visually, like you can see the gun move even without actually changing where it shoots, and also you have your recenter speed. So don't try and expect to be beaming with a Maddox with literally 0 recoil, that is completely impossible. However, it is something that you could strive to achieve. Next thing I would like to teach you about is obviously strafing. It is of paramount importance that you strafe. For a lot of my time within the game, I didn't really realize why you should. However, nowadays it is something that I do almost every single time. If you watch my movement guide with sideways sprint, I would recommend watching that as well, because that will help. Whenever you strafe, you will get aim assist that is rotational. So I will be on target, getting pulled, even without aiming with my stick here, so I'm not even touching that shit. This is really important for ARs particularly. It is very useful for every gun, but ARs in particular, because their aim assist range is weaker than SMGs. And also that comes down to fire rate as well. Because it shoots slower than SMGs, it's harder to stay on target. So you would want to maximize the aim assist potential you have by strafing whenever you can. This can be done as well when you aim in like this. If you want to know a cool trick about the Maddox, if you spam ADS, you will be able to move faster. And after you spam ADS and you see a guy, simply just stop spamming ADS and shoot him. This works reasonably well in igniting your rotational aim assist because it gives you a movement boost. I would not recommend doing this mid gunfight most of the time unless they're really close, because obviously you're going to go into hip fire. The reason this works, as I mentioned before with class setups, as long as you have an ELO and quick draw 2, you will be able to use this technique. So obviously it would be something you will see everybody using this sort of shit. It's quite a useful thing to do. Additionally, this might be pseudoscience, however I believe is reasonably correct. Whenever you play Black Ops 4 and you reignite your aim button, you will get your aim assist redone again. It also means you can stay on target slightly better, because you're not trying to just like leverage like this. That's a bit annoying. So if an enemy is moving past your screen very fast, doing ADS spam is very reasonable. Now ADS spam, just for people who don't even use this can actually be used on basically every other gun. It's just on other guns it doesn't work so well because you get a zoom in effect, so your field of view actually decreases and it will give you a shake, so this will shake your screen for example. However, if you do it sometimes on other guns, it is also a thing you can do. It's not something that is only universal to the Maddox. The next thing I'm going to be talking about is centering. Most important thing in the game. A lot of people, they think the Maddox has like a shit ton of recoil. The truth is this gun actually blazes. It's basically an ICR, but most of the recoil that you get with the Maddox is self-induced. And a lot of people I don't know how people don't realize that. You playing wrong basically makes it harder for you to use the Maddox. The first thing I would recommend, most SMG players think they can do this with the Maddox. Now, with my tension sticks, it's a bit harder. People will not move around smoothly like this. You'll see keyboarders do this, but you will not see people with high sense like SMG grinders do this shit. Whenever you play with Maddox, it is important you don't like swipe crazily, because if you swipe, it's difficult to stay on target. Now for me it's fine because I'm just built like that, my Maddox is ready, but if you're like some random ass bot swiping, yeah, you're not going to be doing that with the Maddox. Keep your centering correct, always center in where you would expect an enemy to be, doorways, head glitches, choke points, and then rotate it around from different point to different point. As you're doing that, use your other stick for leverage as well, side sprint, so you can move it around a bit better, so you always get your aim assist that is rotational igniting, and you'll be quite good off. Whenever you slide as well, use leverage on this stick. This will allow you to stay as centered as possible, meaning after you slide cancel and camera some grinders, you will be able to beam them with your Maddox. This is important because, as I mentioned before, your Maddox only has a limited amount of bullets that actually have good recoil. Most of the good Maddox players will not be shooting their Maddox past the 15th, 20th shot. You would preferably want to keep it in the 10, and even if you go past, I would recommend you actually shoot some bullets. Once you're here, let it recenter and shoot again. This will reset your recoil pattern, and it will allow you to get the good recoil pattern rather than going into the really shit zone where it starts swaying everywhere. That is something you could also do, and I would recommend that very much, because not doing so in many situations is very counterintuitive, especially if you're playing long range. So again, as I mentioned, make sure you keep your gun centered. As you're moving around, I would recommend just swaying your right stick a bit. What this sway will do is it will again ignite your aim assist a bit more. Now, it's not too important, but you'll see keyboarders do this with shit DPI, and in my personal experience, it does work pretty well, especially paired with this. Now, I've touched upon this with my movement guide, and it's basically the same point, so if you watch that, you would already understand that. But with the Maddox, it is reasonably important to at least put some sort of movement within your right stick. This gun does not kill fast. You would want to make sure you have every single opportunity to use your aim assist to make sure you can be on target on your first shot. If you're not, rest in peace. Just a quick interruption from Jakubike after the video is already finished. I forgot one thing to say about your centering. Whenever you center as well, a key point with this bullshit is don't look at the ground. A lot of people, when they play the game, they run around like this, like, what are you looking at? You're looking at the ground, you're looking at the worms, you're looking at your grave. So that's why you're gonna get sent by my Maddox. But anyway, don't look at that, obviously. You want to keep your Maddox reasonably centered towards the center line. The more centered it is, in my opinion, the nicer it looks. So the more centered of your screen you are with the horizon or whatever you could call it, then it looks nicer. The reason you want that is because you will be able to shoot center body mass of enemies much easier if you center upward. It also means obviously your centering is correct. So yeah, back to frequency we go. A technique that I've heard people mention, which is an interesting technique, works more so on the Sorg than the Maddox. They reckon, and there is a scientific basis behind this that hasn't been explained, a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but certain individuals believe you will want to strafe your weapon the opposite direction to where your recoil is going to. The scientific basis behind this is, imagine your recoil is just you looking in a different opposite direction. If you're going to be pulled towards the right and you pull yourself towards the left, that will actually even out, and what will occur is you will have just a straight beam because both forces coincide with each other. They will flatten themselves out. With the Maddox, it is possible to do such a thing, although it's not too necessary. So what I usually would do is strafe left first and then move towards the right, because obviously the Maddox recoil goes right and then towards the left and then more to the right. So you would do something like that. Again, this is possibly pseudoscience, but with my experience, personally, I believe strafing with the Maddox left side first a lot nicer than strafing right side. It may be difficult for people to understand what I'm mentioning here, but imagine like this is how you would strafe with the technique. Obviously, since the gun is shooting this way and I'm moving that way, it will even out. If I'm then moving towards the right side, I'm still goated, so it's looking nice. But it makes it more difficult, basically. Reasonably, you can still beam, but it is, for those bots, it is nicer to strafe away from your recoil. Obviously, with guns, it's a bit difficult to take notice of where your recoil is going, because with the Maddox, it kind of goes all over the place. So with the Maddox, best thing I can actually recommend, strafe to side, and you'll be completely fine. Do it at, I would reckon, at least this pace. Make sure you do it flat, 180-degree line here, and this will allow you to take as much movement as you can from this. You can use some taps into your Maddox as well. And obviously, when you're challenging somebody and you're aiming down the sights, that does not change. You're still going to be doing the exact same thing, strafing side to side. Some people believe this will take away your recoil. Scientifically, it could possibly in certain situations, but it's more so just to make sure, number one, you don't get hit. That's a bonus, it's offensive. And also it allows you to take care of your aim assist a bit nicer. With the movement you should use the Maddox is actually very simple. It's AR, so do not try and play this particularly like an SMG. I would recommend jump shotting only when people are actually close range. And if you do want the jump shot, do not do what some idiots do and jump shot long range and then try and fire with your Maddox. Now this works in certain cases because I mean I'm built like that, like it makes no difference to me. But whenever you're jump shotting, I would recommend shooting as you touch the ground. Whenever you jump shot, you get recoil penalties. With the Maddox, your recoil is already so annoying to the point where if you're getting more penalties on top of that, yeah, rest in peace. If you want to chow someone close range, I would recommend doing some crouches. I would say these are probably the most reasonable things you can do. I would not recommend jumping with the Maddox. That can, if you're garbage, it's annoying. If you're good, fine, no problem, go ahead. Again, with the normal, every other movement is pretty okay with it. Do the normal cameras, which I might explain in the future. Again, use your strafing. You can obviously do some snakes, etc, etc. Whenever you try and track people with the Maddox, again, I've already mentioned this point, but I didn't mention it particularly with tracking. You want to make sure you don't swipe with your stick, because if you track someone and try and swipe, your Maddox will not kill them fast enough. The only time you could particularly kill someone with the Maddox is if you don't actually use this stick too much with tracking. It's not that necessary to do so. With a sword, maybe. But because it's so important to hit every single shot with this gun, otherwise you'll get out-timed killed by other things. You do not want to be swiping left to right and shit. That's basically all for the Maddox. I guess I'll touch in a bit more about the way you should be sliding as well, because this is probably one of the most important things that will make your Maddox actually good. It is again, how you use your movement correctly. I'll just touch upon this and probably leave everything else towards some other time and videos. Whenever you slide, use your leverage with this stick. What that means, angle it to where you want to slide to. Put it just before your sprint cuts out. So here it cuts out, I move it a bit more up. I can now sprint and then slide sideways like so. Doing this maximizes your centering. As I previously mentioned, if you do that, you can basically push whatever you like with your Maddox, because you're already going to be centered on everybody, and it will basically make your Maddox a beam machine. Other than that, with all those tips that you're going to learn and know from today, there will be some of you who will say, oh yeah, cool, Jacob, that sounds nice. And then you'll go back on your ass on your unemployment grind, being on Black Ops 4 in year 5, being 20 years old, and not having a good Maddox, which is inexcusable. But there are going to be some people, the people which watch this video, which are going to become Maddox gods. Now, for the Maddox gods, there will be only one differentiating factor between these two groups. One of them will actually use the Maddox in practice, and the other one will just be like, nah, I just want my micro MG. And that's a rest in peace. In my time playing, I was a shit Maddox player in year 1. I didn't like this guy. I was Sorg only. I was addicted to the Sorg. But then I realized I would be incapable of challenging Deed when he came for me. And I knew I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for his Maddox. So I had to get my Maddox ready. And I think my Maddox is ready now. So again, it is really down to you if you want to put in the time. I would recommend actually playing against bots. For some of your practice sessions. Whenever you play against bots, it's not about the kills particularly that you're going to be getting. It's more so on this, just using some of the techniques I highlighted in the video. There may be some things I left out which are, you know, interesting, but most of the things I basically touched upon right now. Again, just to summarize, you got your strafing, you got your centering. Both of these will help you hit better with your recoil management. Make sure you have your centering correct so that you can hit your first shots on target, because if you go on to the further shots, rest in peace. If you want to have an easy mode recoil control, you just like pull down this way, which is 1 o'clock, reverse, and most likely your Maddox will stay reasonably centered. Once you get better, you can start going like a bit more like this and shit. That's like basically what I do, because my Maddox is ready like that. And again, you got control freaks, which will help you. Obviously aim. You can have your back buttons helping you with your movement. And yeah, that's basically it. Also, for other people, which I forgot to mention, if you want to use ELO on the Maddox, I would heavily recommend you use this dot rather than any other sight on the Maddox. So just it could be a red dot, blue dot, purple dot. It doesn't really matter what color it is. I simply don't believe the others are as good because they block out more of your screen. Again, with my Maddox being ready, I can make it ready on every single site regardless, but I do believe, statistically speaking, this is probably the most simple and best to use for that situation. Anyway, that's actually basically it for my Maddox tutorial. Like, if you want to watch any of my gameplays, if you don't believe my Maddox is ready, which it always is, you know how it is, anytime, play me at the range, mid-map only, Maddox only, any trusted middleman, $10 to $100, no problem, my Maddox is ready. So, you know, if you don't believe that, just watch some of my Maddox gameplays. You might learn some shit from there anyway. I might link some in the intro or outro or whatever, or in the comment section. If you have any questions, put them down below. If you enjoyed the tutorial, tell me. If you believe this is a W vid, make sure you comment dub vid with my Maddox. And if you want to sub to my membership as well, there's like a Maddox icon you can use. So for £2.50 a month, with my unemployment BO4 endeavors, you can start spamming Maddoxes in my chat. But yeah, I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. I'm gonna stop wasting your time. This is basically it for my Maddox, and I'll see you.
I don't really know what else to say. Other than that, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, and share to everyone you know. You already know we're going crazy this summer. So, other than that, I'll catch you on the next one.